Far, far away, one can find Arau. While it may first look very Earth-like, with vast oceans, green forests, and barely any ice, it doesn't take much for this illusion to come crashing down. First of all, the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. But that's not all, for once the sun dips beneath the eastern sky, you will quickly realize that there is no moon to take its place. And this isn't because you landed during the new moon, not really. Arau simply doesn't have any natural satellites. Thus, nights in Arau are always quite dark, only lit by the glow of distant stars. And the longer you stay, the more oddities you start to notice. If you wait for roughly 560 days, you'll notice the sun becoming noticeably bigger and then smaller, only for it to start growing again. But don't worry, that's nothing out of the ordinary in this world, really just a consequence of Arau's extremely eccentric orbit. Indeed, if you placed Arau in old Earth's solar system, its orbit would take it both closer to the Sun than Earth and farther from it than Mars. And yes, this does mean that, technically, Arau dips in and out of the so-called habitable zone every year, but it's okay, I think. Anyways, this also means that the seasons here have very little to do with those of other worlds, as the whole planet, including the equator, gets cooler and then warmer at the same time. Perihelion, the point at which Arau is the closest to the Sun, acts as a sort of global summer, and then Aphelion, the point at which it's the farthest away, acts as a sort of winter. But that's not the only force affecting Arau's seasons, of course, as the world is also rather tilted. Indeed, considerably more so than Earth. Thus, the more normal seasonal patterns that exist on Earth also apply here. Naturally, this does lead to some frankly unique combinations, much to the dismay of the planet's inhabitants. Particularly to the dismay of those unlucky enough to live in the Northern Hemisphere. There, perihelion matches with summer and aphelion with winter, which combine to make one part of the year extremely hot and the other extremely cold. So much so that, in many regions, summer temperatures reach well beyond 60 degrees Celsius and winters drop well below -60. Needless to say that this makes much of the world north of the tropics essentially uninhabitable, or at least unsuited for year-round habitation, as nomadic groups have since learned how to move with the seasons, sheltering from the heat in the tallest mountains and moving towards the tropics to escape the bitter cold. Meanwhile, the southern hemisphere remains much more hospitable, as the same alignment that makes life in the north so miserable also spares the south from any kind of extreme weather. The southern winter coincides with perihelion and the summer with aphelion, thus shielding this hemisphere from the worst of the heat and keeping it warm while Arau travels outside the habitable zone. But there is one small catch here, you see. Indeed, due to how objects move, Arau spends more time in the sort of aphelion zone than it does in perihelion, as it moves slower the farther it is from the sun. Thus, the southern summer doesn't quite cover the entire period during which Arau is out beyond the frost line, which causes the year to be divided into 6 seasons instead of 4, as aphelion is essentially cut in half by a spell of warmer weather. So, as far as the people are concerned, the year starts in perihelion, which then gives way to spring and the beginning of the first cold season. But then this is interrupted by summer, which lasts a couple months until the start of the second cold season, which itself lasts a few weeks until the start of autumn, and then once again perihelion comes. And so the year goes round and round until the end of days. Or well, technically speaking, this system will not last forever, as the orbit's eccentricity is not fixed and Arau's lack of a moon means its axial tilt is allowed to fluctuate wildly over time. But you know, those things take thousands of years to unfold, so it's best not to think about them.